Would you mind doing a poem?
This piece is Asante Sana. Abadigani, comrade. What, you still on that freedom shit? Word? Well, yeah, you know me in this poetry, we still be on that weedum shit. That birthing inspirational couplets and breedum shit. That I spit, cat should heed 'em shit. That words can't break my bones, but if you cut me, Holmes, I bleed 'em. Shit. Atonement for the masses of hard asses and heads that tread on civil liberties in the most uncivilized of fashion is said to be dead. Can we afford to be dumb for free? See, that's the question I'm asking as I beg for an ounce of truth amongst the aloof surrounding me. My vices are proof that these demons keep hounding me. Reality keeps pounding me, almost astounding me into this strange hypocrisy. You see, I preach the same hope that I'm losing daily, like my religion. Peep how deep I bare my soul. I stand on the precipice of this crossroads. It's like I want to give my life to the cause, but which one? Ignorance is running so ridiculously rampant, I can't tell if I'm hating or merely debating just for fun. But I do know my heart heaves heavy upon hearing the fluttering hum of the feeble footsteps of fear, stamping out the ferocious flames of our dogged desire and determination to outpace the perilous prophecy our captors have programmed to be our faith, and thus our fate. I know my soul writhes with anxiety aches. Lies no longer need disguise when they start looking like the truth. Like, how do we ignore cries of ill-guided youth spitting dope bars of self-hate over beats that bang harder than strange fruit hangs? Meanwhile, her breasts hang and her booty bangs harder than the gun claps of rival gangs fighting over territory they don't even own. And in magic cities everywhere, she feeds her babies based on her ability to shake what her mama gave her because her pops was too busy breaking in his disappearing act to save her from these mean streets that eat the meek in one swallow. Lies no longer need disguise when the truth is viewed as hollow through the eyes that need it most. We, descendants of stolen legacies, children of ancestors who cannot be broken, birthers and bearers of a culture that has been repeatedly robbed and ransacked to feed the spiritually famine like a black woman's bosom. We who become a pre-existing condition simply because we pre-exist. We who realize we are worthy. We are the guardians. We are the gardeners. We are the soil. We are the toil. We are the protectors of our seeds who need to be protected, who need to see true love and Black excellence redirected, not through fame and fortune, but redirected through character and deed. And indeed, it is those who stand on the front line, fighting for the minds of our young, Black, and gifted. It is you who are an inspiration to me, because you are the revolution we do not see on TV. Asante Sana.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, Malcolm Jamal Warner. This interview.
To someone who doesn't need an introduction, because we saw him so many nights, every Thursday night, 8 p.m., from 1984 until 1992. Malcolm Jamal Warner, American actor, director, producer, musician. He's best known for his role in the popular sitcom The Cosby Show, but he did so much more. He's also recognized for his work on Malcolm and Eddie, Read Between the Lines, Here and Now, Sons of Anarchy, and more recently, The Resident. Malcolm was born in Jersey City, New Jersey on August 18, 1970. He was named after Malcolm X and musician Ahmad Jamal. He began acting at age 9 in shows like Matt Houston and Fame. And Malcolm charmed his way into our living rooms as the only son in the Huxtable family. His character, Theo Huxtable, was known for his relatable struggle with school and dyslexia, which helped educate audiences about learning disabilities at a time when there was a lot of uncertainty and unknowns. He also directed several episodes of The Cosby Show. He was nominated for Emmys, and as a musician, won a Grammy. And his albums include Hiding in Plain View, which also earned a Grammy nomination. He was a father, a husband, a son, a grandson, a friend, a mentor. In essence, a man of many accomplishments, achieved many things, and seems now that he left us and left this world too soon. Hi, everyone. My name is Atiba. This is a special episode of Chalkboard Conversations. I'm going to bring on my co-host. We're going to have a conversation tonight. We hope that you all will join us in this conversation. We know that we heard just a few days ago about Malcolm's passing, his untimely passing, and it brought back a lot of memories for us. And we thought that this would be an opportunity for us to talk at the Thursday 8 p.m. hour that many of us were used to from 1984 until 1992, of watching him come into our living rooms, and 44 million people watched the show. There were 5 years where The Cosby Show, was number one. And in the last few days, I know myself personally have had an opportunity to look and to read so much about him and learn so much about him and the multifaceted person that he was, the amazing person that he was. One of the things that I think is so amazing is that he seemed to touch so many, both physically and as well as those who never got a chance to meet him. And as I said before, it feels as if he's gone too soon. So with that, I'm going to bring on Nick, Earl, Nayada, Betty. It's been a long time, guys and ladies. How's everyone doing tonight?
I'm all right. I'm all right. How are you all doing?
Dan.
Oh, there we go.
You guys are coming with the energy. I just did the introduction.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. It's good
It
to
is.
see you all. And the conversation that we want to have this evening, I know that some of you have not all have picked a clip, like a favorite clip of something from Malcolm, but take us to 1984. I don't know how old you were, but I know you were still around because we've all talked about The Cosby Show. What were your impressions when you first saw Theo? And I'm going to start with the women because, he was a teenage 13-year-old guy coming on TV. We got to see, I was thinking this just before we started this, we got to see him come onto the show, go through as Earl can attest to, our squeaky voice stage, where, the high-pitched voice, our voices are trying to get the deeper. And we got to see him go through that to the point where he was 21 years old when the show ended and was graduating from college. But what were you all's first impressions of Theo Huxtable?
So it's funny because he reminds me of my brother.
Oh.
Like, I mean, growing up, I had one brother, Nat, who passed 9 months ago. However, he reminded me so much of my actual brother. And so I was like, yeah, that's my brother.
Yeah, he was everybody's little brother, even though we're peers. I'm not going to say how much of a peer we are, but we are peers. Theo, looking back now, Theo personified, he was the first example of Black boy joy. He was different than what we had seen before. He wasn't quite Urkel, and he wasn't the stereotypical hard guy in the street that would be pumped out to us in other sitcoms and other shows, but he was definitely a joy to watch. And so he was kind of different for me, but I really got into his character. He's like the brother you just really never wanted, but had to have.
Earl, how about you? What were your thoughts when you first watched the Cosby Show and saw him there.
I think, can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure that's good. But in 84, what I think people forget is that I think all we had on television at the time was maybe Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges in Different Strokes. I don't know if there was a lot of representation at the time. And weirdly enough, I took it for granted, considering we lost it shortly thereafter. But at that time, he wasn't an orphan. And he wasn't struggling with, like, all he had to struggle with was his day-to-day activities, his school, and his family, unlike what they always want to throw on a black back when trying to get through a television show. And so it was the easiest for me to relate to. That's the easiest way for me to put it. He wasn't trying to deal with a parent drinking in real time. It was just get through your day in a house full of, his dad and 4 sisters.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that strikes me again, just the last few days reading about him was that he was the last one to audition for that part. Malcolm was the last person to audition for that part. And even seeing, I can't remember his name offhand because I know he went on to play on Martin, but they called him Cockroach, his best friend, that he had also was in the running for that part. And then they had some friction on the show because he was like the next to last person to get it. And then Malcolm Jamal Warner got the role. It's funny when you watch shows or movies and you see someone in a role and you think, I can see anyone playing that role better. And I feel like he personified the role, and just, we got to see him blossoming as an actor. And then, for him to go, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, his transition from being a child star to an adult star. And I'm sure that it was bumpy along the way, but to see where he evolved was a beautiful thing. For me, I don't know if we have the clip, Betty. For me, the part that really drew me into the Cosby Show was that very first episode when he tells his father that he just wanted to be regular. And when he said, well, I don't want to be like you and mom. I just want to be a regular person. And then the father says, well, this is what a regular person, let's with the Monopoly board. I thought it was an incredible lesson. Go ahead.
That's a great, at first he said, Theo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And you're afraid that your brain's going to explode. It's going to come oozing out of your ear. You have to understand that speech. I've heard it so many times.
I think that's the other thing too, though, about the show is, and I saw this quote that he said, and he said that Dr. Cosby, his goal was never to create a show about an upper class Black family. It was to do a show about an upper middle class family that happened to be Black. And he said there was actually something different about, saying it in those different ways. And so, to see that, and later to see interviews with Felicia Rashad talking about the show, she said that the show related to so many people because they saw and it related to certain things with them, right, regardless of ethnicity, with the show. I think that was the thing that, for me, about Malcolm Jamal Warner, that was impressive. That here you have a young person in a role with 4 sisters?
4 sisters. Yeah.
And, navigating that world as I grew up in a family where it was 3 boys and 2 girls. I don't know what it was like for my sisters is like being in the minority. I do know this. They found a way to win every vote because they ended up getting one of us, even though the boys might say we're going to stay strong. And so, in that kind of a thing, I think that hopefully, I think that this is what resounded with 44 million people, that he was relatable. We're going to bring Pat for Now the Gang's All Here.
Now the gang's all here.
And we know Pat is going to bring some poetry to this conversation.
Man, do you understand? I feel like I've been in county for so long. I ain't seen y'all. Like I've been away, but not away, like they say in DC.
Well, we're
Don't
glad
so
they
happy
let
to
you
see
out.
y'all.
say
We're
that.
glad they let you out. Asada, thank you so much for that. And we're glad you're here. And Lisa, hello. And please, if you all have any comments that you all like to share, please share them with us. And we'll, if people can either see them or we'll try to make sure that everyone gets a chance to hear what you have to say. But Pat, you know, Pat is so good at calling. He checks in on you. And I'm so appreciative of that. And Pat, I want you, and I'm saying this because you always say something that's poetic and eloquent. So I don't want to, get everybody's expectations too high, but tell us what your thoughts were 1984, the first time you watched The Cosby Show, because we know it wasn't 1985. We know it was 1984 when you started watching.
So one of the things too is that remember the Cosby showed us how to be friends with people. And if you think about the folks that came through that living room and whether you were, there was a moment where Theo's friendships taught us how to be friends and be gentle with one another, especially as black boys coming of age at that particular time, 14, 15, 13. And the relationship between he and Cockroach was an element of liberation for so many 14-year-old little boys watching this. Like, he gets it. We can fail, but we can flop together or we can sail together. And I think that was like one of the most amazing things about that experience of Theo coming into our living rooms in real time is that we saw ourselves struggling with, I had a great idea. I was on the way to do it, but I forgot about it and I did something else. Like, that rhythm and that exchange between how fathers talk to sons, that legendary scene. But more importantly, he just taught us how to be friends. He taught how to bring folks who didn't have as much as he did into that house and they got a lot more. And I think that was probably one of the most powerful messages of just him being the only boy in that sea of women is that he found a way to incorporate his friends in. His sisters made his friends better to be more sensitive and more dynamic and more understanding. So that was the thing. I when he first came on the screen, it was like, man, I want to get a shag too. So
I want to go to Nick because Nick, you being our entertainment guru, so I'm gonna put fashion in there too.
Yeah.
Gordon
Oh,
Gartrell.
Gordon Gartrell.
That
Hey, do we have the clip, Betty? Do you have that one ready?
While
No.
she's I was gonna say while she's doing that, what were your thoughts? You had to know that when he went to his sister, Denise wasn't gonna be able to do anything with that shirt. Oh, I can do it.
I mean, she tried.
She tried. She sure did.
Really?
She failed, but she tried.
Really? I can't go see Justine like this.
And admittedly, didn't she only have like 4 hours to make the shirt? Like that. She didn't have a lot of time to make that shirt.
Yeah, it was not Project Runway for her.
You know what the genius was in that episode to me? And, I want to talk a little bit too about the psychology of it. Dr. Alvin Poussin was from DC, the psychologists that were there. That at the end, he's all upset. And then his father says, go upstairs and get the shirt. Like, because it was like, a parent knows something's going to go wrong. But the parent also knows that they have to do the lesson. Like, this shirt costs more than any shirt of mine in my own wardrobe. So, there was just so many different parts, as well as the symmetry or non-symmetry of the shirt.
Here we go. We have the clip.
It's over, isn't it?
Is this my shirt? Is this the shirt I paid $30 for? Is this the shirt they're supposed to think is a Gordon Gartrell? You don't like it? Ask me the question again. You don't like it? I hate it. Look at it. Oh, it's the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. It's not that bad, is it?
It's better than I could do.
Look at these sleeves. My arm is the same length, wearing my sleeve. This collar's all crazy and its inside is too big.
maybe if you tucked it in a little more.
It's tucked
Into
into
my
my
socks.
socks.
You are gonna pay for this.
Anything for your dad.
It's funny. Here we are, all these years later, still laughing at that episode.
As if it just came out.
Right. And
As
the
if
thing is that it's classic, but it's also the shirt. He looked like a clown in the shirt, like the collar and everything. But it was an incredible lesson. And it also goes to show in terms of relationship. But even watching it just now, in light of what we're talking about in terms of Malcolm Jamal Warner, the acting in that scene is just he was fantastic in that role. Like it's like you felt what he felt in that. With I spent $30 and this is what I get.
But also too, I want to bring up something too. You're absolutely correct. It's because think about it. That was the money he had earned outside of in order to do what he wanted to do. So the construct of chores, I mean, like you work, you do your side hustles, and you should be able to buy what you want to buy. And that's totally like not existent in today's generation. Like your kids will tell
Say
you
that part.
they put it in the cart and they just want you to whatever. But you think about it, like he worked to get the money to buy the Gordon Gartrell. He was going to go out and be the guy at the party. And then he opted to go with his sister to save a little bit of money on something that you think about it, this is 42 years ago, 41 years ago, 40 years ago. He did that. You can imagine the scale of that today. And I mean, Nick is the entertainment reporter, so I guess a stylist would have stepped in at this point and styled him accordingly by today's standards. But he had a sense of what it's like. I mean, it was so powerful, but he also gave us a point of levity to say, I have a right to complain and be frustrated and be mad in a very healthy kind of way.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you think about the psychology of it, go ahead, Nick.
It was a buy-in. He did chores. He earned the money. It was a buy-in, something these kids today know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they don't. But so we could all relate. At that time, we were doing chores. We were trying to get stuff to go to the Run DMC concert or whatever, thing that we had going on at that particular time. And so we could relate to that because we understood how we were just trying to get those jeans. So we had the whole look set up. We had it laid out. We just knew what we were going to do, what we were going to say, who we were going to see. And when it goes south like that, it did it in a spectacular fashion, hilarious and historical.
Oh, absolutely.
So then we're gonna watch another clip. Can we go to this? Some of you all might remember this. The Dragon Lady.
Wait, before we go to that, I think we have a sixth co-host here with Asada.
Super fan.
Yeah, I know. Theo was superbly written, but Malcolm Jamal Warner brought him to life in the most amazing way. He did. And Asada, one of the things also, thank you for that. One of the things also that was as impressive is also listening to Dr. Cosby talk about Malcolm, and that he said Malcolm was so good at learning his lines. And you think about it, like here's a young person in high school having to still do their schoolwork, having to learn these lines, and then to be on television for 44 million people to see every week. And he didn't miss one show. So with that, let's look at another clip. If we can bring that one up, Betty, the Dragon Lady.
Excuse me just a little bit. I'd like to talk to you, Theodore, in the other room.
You would?
And make it snappy.
That's the Miss Westlake I know. You wanted to see me, Miss Westlake?
Yes, Theodore, please sit here.
Yes, Mrs. Westlake.
You know what? I'm very glad that I came here tonight.
Me too. Maybe we could do it again sometime.
Oh, yes, I hope so too. You know what? I love your parents. They are very, very nice.
Thank you, Mrs. Westlake.
But Theodore, I want to talk to you about the class today. I brought it with me, but I didn't want to give it to you in front of your parents.
Thank you, Mrs. Westlake. Thank you.
Open it.
Do I have to?
You don't have to. Open it.
Yes, Mrs. Westlake. At 89? 89? I got an 89. All right. I'm very pleased, Miss Westlake.
So am I.
This was a hard test.
I know. One student just got up to problem number 3.
Really? Mom, Dad, Mrs. Westlake brought my test over.
Earl, that was your clip.
Yeah, it was.
What were your thoughts about that? Why did you pick that clip?
So when this was happening, obviously I was still in elementary school. And the thing that was funny is that and I'm grateful for it, but I had very active parents. I had parents that wanted to know who my teachers were, wanted to know what I was doing in school, wanted to know how I was doing, basically made it impossible for me to get away with anything. And so when watching this, it was fun to see my life, seeing elements of my life replicated on screen. I won't say that we've actually hosted a teacher at my house, but I did remember the fact that earlier in the episode, he explains that the way that she shows up in class is not the way she appeared when she showed up at the front door with her husband. And so the whole time, feels like, I don't know who this woman is. This is not my teacher. I do not know who this woman is. And as a kid, I could relate to the fact that you don't know what your teachers are up to when you're not at school. They have lives. They have clothes that they don't wear to work. They have entire personalities. And so watching Theo get introduced to this other side and then have it snapped right back to where he was familiar, I thought that was classic. I thought the micro expressions on his face where he looked at the test and he smiled and then he hid it, like there's so many things happening. If you go back and don't watch it now, but if you go back and watch that clip later, every microsecond of that scene, his face is doing something different. And there's no way but to relate to that. No way but to relate to that. But I mean, Lorraine Braga, no one's complaining about Lorraine Braga being your teacher though.
But Earl, but also too, remember that was reminiscent of the old black church management model of you don't roll your eyes to express frustration, and you definitely don't suck your teeth.
You can't suck your teeth.
And so if you look at his body language, it was, I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm not going to add more to it than it has to be if I did not meet my mark. And I mean, when you said that, I thought about the physicality and folks from a certain generation, you were not allowed to emote. You just had to take whatever was coming at you. And that's what he did. He kind of looked at us like he didn't know what was on the paper. And I don't know if that was one of those psychological things of them not telling him what the score was until she actually pulled it out. And he was just as surprised because, again, just like at that particular age, pass or fail was also tied to, number one, did you work hard enough? Number two, did you ask for help? And number three, did you tell them that you needed help? I mean, that's been a governing principle, I think, for all of us who have, visible vaccination scars on our shoulders. I mean,
there comes the poetry.
Like if you got the little keloid, you know what?
Y'all know Pat back in the day. Pat has a notebook full of rhymes, and he always finds a way to get it in.
Bars.
Nick, I'm sorry, Nick. Let me go to Nayada first. Nayada, you raised two boys. You know what? Did anything about that clip resonate with you?
So honestly, I have to say, I think a little subconsciously, I raised them with Theo in mind. Like he was a good, wholesome boy got into his, shenanigans. He shenanigans once, he's going to shenanigan again. But, he always learned the lesson, brought it back around, and came out in growth. And that's really, really what I strive to teach my sons as they were growing up. And I think they got it. I think they got it. I mean, they shenaned a lot. So.
Nick, you raised a son who we share a birthday.
Yes.
What was your impression of that clip?
First of all, if a teacher was in my house, it would be like I'm asking questions after, but that's neither here nor there. I too hoped that I mean, not at the time, I didn't correlate Theo and then my raising a son, but he would be somebody that I, hope that my son could emulate. I always wanted, I like the fact that, he can adapt to certain situations, and still, keep his wits about him. He still was honest. He still had integrity. And, keep in mind, he had to navigate an inner city. That was in the inner city, regardless if it was a brownstone or not, it was in the inner city. And so I always appreciated it. So I think, to Nayada's point, if you're raising a young Black boy, you do want him to have a great mix of all of the good things that Theo had: the integrity, the honesty, the love, the ability to laugh at himself. He didn't take himself too seriously. He didn't have like a lot of toxic masculinity. He was just a well-rounded gentleman. And I think, I may not have had Theo in mind when I was raising my son, but I had Theo's characteristics in mind when I was raising my son.
And to my parents who may be watching this, will probably recall. So when I was going to high school, we lived out of the boundary. I went to Dunbar High School, was in the pre-engineering high school, and there was a teacher who used to pick up my next door neighbor to take to school. And then when I started going to school, she started doing the same thing for me. She did the same thing for my sister, and she happened to be my geometry teacher. And I had a hard time with geometry. And I'll still never forget, one morning she came over for breakfast to talk about how I was doing in class. So when I saw that episode, all of that was like resonating with me in terms of like remembering that particular show. That I'm like, oh my gosh, the Cosby Show. Little did I know, maybe I manifested something there, but it was a very interesting show, and it definitely resonated with me. Like, how can my teacher be friends or be cool with my parents? So
I would, even to see a teacher outside of a school building is very odd and weird and off-putting. You're like, oh, you walk?
You exist outside school?
Right.
And they did a great job of picking this particular woman to play the teacher.
Yeah.
Lorraine, yeah.
All right. We're gonna go to our next clip. This one is Theo and the Joint.
Yes.
And this is Nick's clip.
This is my dad. Say hi. Hello, Mr. Huxtable. Dr. Huxtable. This is Tony Braxton.
What name do you really go by?
I'm the enforcement.
I'm the dad.
Braxton came over here because he wanted to tell you something. I put the joint in his book.
Why?
You walked in the room. I had to put it someplace. I want to smoke it later.
Look, I'm not your father, but I do think that you have a problem, son. And I think you ought to talk to your parents about it. And if you don't want to talk to them, talk to a counselor, talk to somebody at school. And if not, you can come here.
I'll think about it.
Okay. Have a seat. Let me talk to you for a second. Didn't I tell you that everything was cool? Didn't I say that?
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure.
That's a big dude. Look, I don't think it's necessary for you to risk life and limb to prove something to your mother and me when we've said to you We believe you and we love you. Okay?
I know, Dad.
Okay. Thank you for coming over.
Anytime.
All right.
I don't get it, Huxtable. Your parents said they believed you, and yet you were ready to fight me to get me to come over here. Hey, I would have come home with a broken arm if I had to. See, what my parents think means a lot to me. But I'm glad I could help out. See ya.
Wow.
Well, that,
Yeah.
I mean, Nick, why did you pick that clip?
Because I picked that clip for a couple of reasons, but one, I was super into after school specials.
Oh, I will get you for that later.
That's the
I'll
next
get you
show.
for that later.
I'm sorry, I dated
Yeah.
myself, but I was super into after school specials, and I'm somebody that likes a little, messiness, and
Drama.
I felt like he, he was ready to fight. I mean, we didn't, obviously the whole episode they were in height, outside of class, and he was about to fight him if he didn't go and tell his parents. And I also appreciated the fact that he said what he said. It's not mine, and his parents took that on face value, and that meant a lot to me. But it also meant a lot to me that Theo was again ready to step outside his comfort zone, fight this big dude, to show his parents, like to overprove to his parents that that wasn't his joint. And so that meant that what his parents thought about him was more important than any bodily harm that was to come if he took on the enforcer or whatever. Yeah. So I always liked when, it was so, the Cosby Show was so light and it gave us so many laughs, but that episode always stuck out to me because of that. It was just, again, a very it was a very pivotal point in Theo's life, because I think at every stage, or at some stages in young men's life, they have to pick a side. And it's like you have a fork in the road, and you can be about the streets, or you can be about the books, or you can kind of go back and forth. But it's like, what side is going to flourish, whatever side you feed. And getting back to what you said about like raising sons, that's exactly what I told my son. Like, you could be here or you can be here, but I can guarantee you here it's not where you want to be.
Right.
And so again, that always kind of stuck out to me. And I always like a little bit of
Drama.
grittiness, drama.
I love that scene.
Okay, so it's a precursor to the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Okay. So, because you said messiness and drama, right? But no white wines to be in drama. Right.
Yeah, no housewives, but just it just gave that little
So I'm not okay with
juxtaposition that the Cosby Show always gave lighthearted fun, but that gave a little bit of like, hey, they still live in an inner city.
He
They
gonna be about it.
Yeah, he still confronts real life threats. And at that time, 1985, which was when that episode aired, that was the beginning of a lot of people's I guess interactions with people that are outside their comfort zone. You're going to a high school or a different school, you're just doing different things, and you have to make the right decision, and he did. And I just think that was a great example. So
I appreciate the fact that he was able to, that they showed that you can have the conversation about it versus it is actually going to go to blows. I mean, you can threaten, but you can still have a conversation about it. And that his relationship with his parents taught him integrity mattered. And like you said, he was willing to go the distance to prove to his parents that he, I think it was a good lesson to be learned in a good way, and not where it's like, all people, all Black folks are thugs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things I liked about the scene, similar to what my dad would have said at the time, is that a lot of times people will say, my child didn't do that. They'll hear an accusation, the first words out of the parent's mouth, my child didn't do that. My dad was quick to say, So tell me what he did first.
Like, he did that shit. He did.
Yeah.
And my dad would make a determination. Okay, that sounds like him. That doesn't sound like him. And this story, what I liked about it was that Cliff realized, okay, this isn't my boy. And he told him, I know who you are. This is not you. And it still mattered to his son to be seen a certain way, which I could relate. But yeah, no, just that whole, I told you I was cool with it because I know my own dad. It's like, if that's something he doesn't think I would do, at that point he'll start fighting. But no, tell me first. I'll make a determination whether or not that sounds like my kid or not. And I always appreciated that. It's a subtle difference, but I appreciate it.
But I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there was another element to it as well, is that number one, he gave other fathers who might have been watching that a plank to connect with their son outside of the element of brutality, right? Or corporal punishment. And again, if you're from a certain generation, you know, like young ladies, you know, the whole chastity conversation, don't break your grandmama's heart by doing something that you're going to regret later. This whole thing of you got caught with something that could have altered her in your future forever. And so to make sure it doesn't happen again, he gave fathers, I mean, if you think about it, it's a point of duality. He acknowledged that smoking weed could be a problem because like it's a drug. It's just not a socially, you know, you put a towel in the bathroom door, you open the window and you put the shoebox on top of the, I'm sorry, anyway.
You know a lot about this.
What I'm
See, it's pretty graphic there, Pat.
Yeah, you know a lot about this, buddy.
But what I'm saying
Was there a fan in there too?
Hey man, you don't. Hey, I don't know.
That
Dad
fan
goes to
cannot
the
be
bathroom on
connected to
Friday
anything
night.
else in the house. Dude, if you don't get outside
Old man
the
goes
house
to the
and go to the
bathroom on
park,
Friday night. And he's staying there 30 minutes. You don't ask why.
you walk
It ain't
to
got nothing to do with Taco Bell. But
you
what I'm
walk to
saying is,
you walk to the park like an adult. You walk to the park like an accountable adult. Spark up outside the house. I don't know where you were raised. That's not. No,
but
that's not.
I mean, but you think about it. I mean, he based, and then the other thing too was that he was proud of, again, like y'all was saying, he was proud of his son being able to convince somebody to come to the house and say, hey, if this is an issue. But it was so much more telling because a lot of fathers at that particular point in time might have been Vietnam vets. They might have had an element of trauma in their own lives. They might not have been taught contextual reference points on how to be. They know how to be a father because you can father a child, but it's different to be a dad. And I think that was the moment where father and son bonded on, I can bring certain things to my dad that I can never take to my mom. And I think for me, that was it, because he like gave him that and kind of gave him the, I see you, my, you know what I mean? Like it was a point of ownership that is my boy.
Right.
And I think that was an even more telling thing in terms of the metaphysical aspect of that whole exchange.
And Asada says, I never believed this episode. Laugh out loud. The kids using drugs were not coming to your house to talk to your parents, not in DC. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, in retrospect, not necessarily the kids using drugs, but the kids who were selling. And I can say that, you know, I had a couple of friends who were that, you know, did come to my house, you know. And
did they talk about it?
No, of course not.
Right.
We didn't talk about it. But, you know, it's funny because I remember once being approached. It was only one time in the time that I was at Dunbar. Y'all know Dunbar was key with Rayful Edmonds and et cetera, all that going on over there. And, you know, the lifestyle in terms of what you saw kids, how they were dressing, how much money they had, this, whatever, but there people were getting killed. And, you know, living in an inner city like DC, that was big. So that episode was key. But, you know, going back to what Pat said, you know, the thing for me was, it wasn't just my parents for a reason why I didn't go that way. It was because I didn't want to ever have to tell my grandmother that I went to jail. Mm-hmm. You know, so it was something also about the community, something about the family, about the village. And for me, you know, Earl was talking about his dad. For me, walking across the stage in high school, my father was a PTA president at every school I went to. I went to 7 schools. Like, you know, he and my mom were engaged in every school that we went to. And walking across the stage, because my father was a PTA president, was the only person out of 700 kids who graduated to be able to hug their parent because on stage. And so I got to do that. But I think that for me, it was also a recognition, like I got through this and I didn't get in trouble and I didn't sell drugs and whatever, but I think that there are so many lessons that come from the show. And hopefully, my hope also is that with this unfortunate passing, that it gives a whole nother generation, because I know all the clips that are coming up in my feed now of the show are so many lessons that, for us to talk about. And what Asada said, some of that too is also a matter of perspective, because I think that we also should be looking at how different people have, because not everybody could relate to the Cosby Show, but I can't say that there weren't a lot of people that wished that they were the Cosby Show or had something like the Cosby Show, at least that familiar love. So we're gonna go to our next clip. The next clip is, and hopefully Betty's gonna come on screen for this one. This is the first episode, Monopoly, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the international impact that the Cosby Show had.
So what you're saying is your mother and I shouldn't care if you get D's because you don't need good grades to be regular people.
Right.
Now, what kind of salary do you expect for a regular person?
$250 a week.
$250 a week?
Yeah.
Sit down. I'm going to give you $300 a week. Yes, indeed. $300 a week, $1,200 a month. All right?
Great, I'll take it.
Yes, you will. And I will take $350 for taxes.
Whoa.
Huh? Yeah. Now, because see, the government comes for the regular people first. Now, how much does that leave you with?
$850.
All right. Now you've got to have an apartment because you are not going to live here. So, an apartment in Manhattan will run you at least $400 a month.
I'll live in New Jersey.
All right. You live in New Jersey, you've got to have a car.
I ride a motorbike.
You need a helmet. Figure $100 a month for clothes and shoes.
Figure 200. I want to look good.
Okay, so what does that leave you with?
$200. So no problem.
There is a problem. You haven't eaten yet.
I can get by on bologna and cereal. So I got everything I need plus $200 left for the month.
You plan to have a girlfriend?
For sure.
God, I wish I'd listened to that closer when I was younger.
Right? Betty, you gonna come on screen?
Earl said 400 Manhattan.
Yeah. When I rewatched that, I
control.
was like, oh, what are these prices going to be like?
But you know what's funny too? If you think back to those prices, like look at the year that was, and then put
85,
in
yeah.
2025 and see how much that was in real.
$400 won't get you a night in a hotel room in Manhattan during peak season.
It's a true story.
Just putting that out there. If you want to stay in Manhattan on the weekend, be ready to pony up between 5 and 6 for one night, not 400 for a month. I just want to drop that in there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
I go up there way too often. That's not going to cover it.
For me, that particular episode, I mean, it was the first episode. I was hooked from the start. I was like, wow, it was smart. It was funny. Listening to Malcolm talk about that particular clip, he said, you know what? On just about any other show, when I said the whole regular people's part, it would have just been like a whole bunch of applause, and that would have been seen, But the comeback, and I think that maybe also for some parents watching that in the beginning, and that first episode, the comeback that Cliff comes back with, the father comes back with, is priceless, which is what makes the scene, especially when he says, you're gonna have a girlfriend. Boom.
That was funny.
That's it.
but you know, one of the other things too I will say about that clip was, to me, it was at that particular point, he thought he had everything figured out
Mhm.
in a snapshot of being 14 years old, of if I can make $1,200 a month, I can live the life that I want to live based
Hmm.
upon right here and now. And you know, it's like it take that prepared us for our first real paychecks. Like I remember I
Not
worked summer
really.
youth
It didn't talk about
employment.
That's it.
FICA.
It should
Well,
have. It should have
it
prepared
should
me.
have,
I
but
didn't let
I
it, but I should have allowed it to prepare me.
but I remember when I worked for Mary and I had my summer youth employment job, and I got my $86 for my week's worth of wages.
Mm,
And
mm.
I remember folks was like, "Well, what you gonna do with your $86?" And I said, "I have to save 70, and I can spend 16 on whatever I want it to be." Because like that whole understanding of like what life costs at that particular
Lifelong
point in
lesson.
time, lifelong lessons that kind of still move you forward now. But it was also too, like, by today's standard, our kids don't touch cash. Our
Mm-mm.
kids have
Mm-hmm.
cards.
Right. They don't
Like,
understand money at all.
Oh man.
right,
So
like I mean, like how many people on this phone kept $20 in their sock and kept $2 in their pocket to avoid getting robbed? I mean, like you didn't want to get hit with your 20, but you could pull out too. You know, if you ran up against, if you was in Metro Center at a certain train, Nayada or Atiba, and you know, I'm sorry, I mean, because y'all are inner city youths, I gotta celebrate y'all.
That's it.
But
Pat, I want you to come back to that point, but just give me 1 second. So $1,200 in 1984 was 3,000. It has a buying power today of $3,740.
wow,
So let that sit in. Before I let you go, Pat, Nick has a hard stop. So first off, just want to know we're sending you a lot of love and hugs,
a
and
lot of
thank you so
love,
much
a
for
lot of
joining
love.
us this evening.
Yeah.
And thank you for your clip and this was great. So I just wanted to do that so that you didn't feel like you were just cutting away. So yeah, I don't know if you have some last things you want to say, Nick.
No, I mean, I thank you for getting us back together again. It's been way too long. Hopefully we can do it again for the next, I don't know. I don't want it to be for another icon taken for us. Maybe another T taken for us.
Yes.
Trump. No, I'm sorry.
See, we were doing just
We would
fine.
do it. No, I'm sorry. You know me, dark and
Nope. We weren't even
drama,
talking about
drama.
right.
After
Messy.
school special.
Messy.
Yeah.
So messy. Sorry, y'all.
Remember, we're
Messy.
live.
Yeah. So next time, hopefully, we will have another topic that we can dissect, and it won't be surrounding this. But I'm glad we
Laws,
can
yeah.
celebrate a life well lived. Life
Agreed.
well lived.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
Yeah.
thank you
Thanks
guys.
for joining us.
All right,
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
that's it.
Bye.
And I'll go back to Kaiser Sose and let you finish your thought. Sorry about that, Pat.
No, I was just saying is that there was an element of like being naive about what money really bought. I mean, if you think about it, you're 14, 15, your world is, you know, maybe a video cartridge on your Atari 2600, maybe some shell toe Adidas or something like that. So you
Board
thought
guard
that,
drill shirt.
right, a Garden Guard Trail shirt, or some Guess overalls, Nayada, or something, something, sorry. But what I'm saying is that we sometimes, like, if we didn't understand the construct of what money could buy, but what money could do for us, I think that was probably one of the more telling moments right there, where once his dad started running through the different scenarios of, it's not just going to be in your pocket, you've got to pay to live and you've got to pay to eat. I think that was a very telling moment.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of, we talk about where things are or where things were then. In all fairness, I think one of the key things too, though, is that young people are up against where we've continued to see the amount of money that people make and the cost of everything continue to go like this. And
Yeah.
some of the things that we were able to do, even being able to buy tickets to go see New Edition Bobby Brown at the Budweiser Superfest, and buy matching outfits with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Everything's changed, but people adapt. But when you look at a lot of the things that are going on today, I think that it's really important to take in all the parameters and all the different, looking at it from different perspectives, I don't know how young people do it, and I feel like they do it with a lot more than we did when we were younger, from a material standpoint. With that said, we've got one more clip, and for those of you who are still watching, this clip is not from the Cosby Show. But this clip was, I think, really spoke to a lot in terms of a couple of things. One, the transition that you have Malcolm going from being a child actor to a young adult, to the times. In this clip is going to be Malcolm Jamal Warner and Omar Epps, as well as some of the conflict stuff that was going on and the fear that was going on. So we could pull up that clip, Betty. This is from Malcolm Jamal Warner when he was on the show that lasted one season, called Here and Now.
There you are. I guess you know what I want. I hope you want me to get 4 of my friends and we'll shoot a little hoop. Come here. Come here! Not you, him! Randall says you've been ignoring him. You asked me to leave him alone. I didn't say leave him alone. I said don't bother him. Curtis, what do you want from me, man? I want you to work with my brother. How? Every time he feels there's a problem, he comes running to you. Because he knows you're going to come up here and back him up every time. Every time. But you're not doing him any favors, Curtis. I mean, he's not going to listen to any of us if he doesn't have to. And with you running interference, he doesn't have to. Well, tell me what's best for my brother. So I'm just trying to do my job, all right? Yeah? Try harder. Because you don't seem to be too good at it. Curtis, do you care about your brother? I mean, do you really care? What you think I'm here for, man? The buffet? Then don't tell me how to do my job. You heard me, man. I said, don't tell me how to do my job. I'm up here trying to make a difference in these kids' lives. Can't you see that? Look, man, look at these shining faces. What do you think? Huh? What do you think? You think your brother would be better off out there on the streets with you? Yeah, that'd be real good for him, standing on the corner drinking a brew. I tell you what, you don't like the way I do my job, then you take him. Go ahead, take him. It's your decision. That boy is either out there on the streets with you or he's in here with us. But it's your decision. You decide. Go ahead. How much do you care about your brother, Curtis? Randall, go sit down.
Oh, man.
Sit down.
Yeah, that for me, that was a powerful scene. And it's just also, Malcolm playing another role, and I know that show only lasted one season, and he went on to do Malcolm and Eddie and some other shows. But, just that progression, we don't see a lot of child actors make that transition and then have the longevity that he did. He was at 54 years old on The Resident and playing a doctor. So, for me, that seeing that clip a few days ago really resonated with me in my memory of, one, working with my mom in an aftercare center with young people. Two, not everyone having the Cosby Show life, and these kids and the brother wanting the best for his younger brother. And at the same time, just that whole challenge of, I'm out here on the street, but I don't want my little brother out here, but I don't want you to bother him. And, so there, I feel like there's a lot to unpack in that, but I wanted to share that clip.
Right. I mean, I think it's probably one of the more, if you think about it, you talk about the natural progression. So remember that he also began to incorporate, based upon the visibility of the Cosby Show, we started seeing him in non-traditional places. And he was very much tied into the hip hop culture. Like, at what point did we start seeing people wearing leather suspenders and jeans and like airbrush sweatshirts and him doing that crazy dance that he did. But Nayada, I also think about it too, from one of your multitude of loves outside of Rum Cakes, is that he actually directed an Any Heartbreak video for New Edition.
I saw that. I
And
didn't know that until this week.
and when we think about a contemporary, when we start to think about producing or directing something, to see somebody who was at one point in our living room as Theo, and to see the transition and understand the backstory behind that, and other videos that he actually was directing as a 21 and 22-year-old in real time, and how he was kind of immersing himself into the ever growing hip hop culture in a real way, was really kind of like one of those things. He was, again, our version of Theo, our version of Cockroach, our version of a lot of different things, where it was okay to dream aloud, and you saw him in there, and you just thought it was a continuation of Theo. But remember that video, if I remember correctly from the interview, that's when like New Edition kind of pivoted a little bit and went beyond, some of the bubblegum stuff, and started to have a little bit more edge. But because he was their contemporary and friend, he actually directed and produced that video, and we saw him in there in a real meaningful way. And I think that also that was a genre of time when it was the Matty Riches started to do some very basic, early films, and we started to get like the Spike Lee Juniors kind of moving around doing different types of things. But he really was an element or a spark or an ember in that kind of conversation. And if you think about it, we saw what we could be doing beyond that, that we could become bi-coastal, that we could reference the culture and be a part of it and bring a point of dignity to it as well. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there as well. So
I'm very happy that, well, first of all, I want to say clearly he had a really good publicist, or he was a really good guy. I mean, because you didn't hear any drama about him. He wasn't in any trouble or anything, but he continued he learned a craft, and he continued the craft, which is something different than, a lot of, as you said, a lot of child stars just, they didn't necessarily have that clear path ahead of them. And I'm happy that he did. And to be honest with you, a lot of the kids on the Cosby Show, I have to say, most of them, they did very well. I mean, they could have ended up in a lot of trouble with all the fame that they got from the Cosby Show. Right. And
I'm very conscious about saying Malcolm instead of Theo, because I got a chance a few years ago. Actually, I got a chance to spend a day with Dr. Cosby, and I got a chance to spend a day with Keisha Knight Pulliam. I lived this when I was working for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. And the thing about Keisha, there were so many people that kept coming up to her saying, "Oh, Rudy," and she kept saying, "Keisha." "Oh, Rudy," Keisha. And because we see, that's how we embrace them, because that's who we know them as in those roles. Right. But their mama didn't name them Rudy or Theo. They're Malcolm and Keisha. And so
right.
One other thing I want to say though about so I didn't select a clip necessarily to show, but I want to point out that around the house, and especially in the kids' rooms, and if you look in Theo's room, he had Wynton Marsalis on his wall. He had who else was on there? I mean, the artwork and the Black culture that was beyond hip hop, beyond youthful culture, was displayed in the room, which showed, that you can have taste and maturity, even though you are a child. And I love that about the Cosby Show. And I mean, Theo's room, the mess aside.
Right. But we're gonna show one more clip, and then we're gonna show one more clip before we wrap. Thank you, Betty. Betty has the dyslexia clip, which I think is definitely important to show.
Theo, I've looked over your essays and notebooks from class.
I hope you can read everything.
Well, that's one of the problems. Your notes are incomplete and poorly organized.
They are?
Yes, and your writing has a lot of structural and mechanical errors, although your ideas are good. Theo, I think that you should be tested for dyslexia.
Dyslexia, what's that?
It's a disorder in which people see letters backwards or in a different sequence, but Theo doesn't see letters backwards.
That's only one form of it, Mrs. Huxtable. Dyslexia is a special way of seeing things. I like to call it a different kind of mind.
What kind of mind?
In Theo's case, first rate. He has the brain power. He just has a glitch in the way he takes in information.
A glitch?
Yes, he just has a problem in the way that he processes language.
Does that mean that there's nothing we can do?
Not at all. There are specialists who can help dyslexics overcome their learning problems. All he has to do is work with the program they've set up.
You mean if my son does what they want him to, he can be helped?
Yes.
All right. Well, it's dyslexia. Now fix it.
Don't jump to conclusions just yet. Theo, when you're called upon in class, do you have difficulty finding the correct words to express yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I know what I want to say, but I have a hard time getting it straight in my mind.
Look, he's got it. Let's fix it.
Dr. Huxtable, I'll need to do a series of diagnostic tests.
When can I take these tests?
You can take them first thing in the morning.
Son, I hope you flunk with flying colors.
No, that's to let you down.
I'll do my best to let you down.
Oh, I love that line. I love that line. Oh,
That was a really great line. Yeah, we do too, Margie. She says, "We love you, Malcolm." I think that all came full circle. And another part of it, and I didn't know this until Malcolm passed, that Ennis, Dr. Cosby's son, was dyslexic, and so there so much, and the fact that two of them played together, so there's just so many different parts, of this show, and so many lessons and so many things that, again, I'll bring up the fact that there were psychologists that were working behind the scenes, with the script writers, and it was just genius. It's almost like, when you listen to a Michael Jackson song, you feel like it's timeless. To me, that's what the Cosby Show is. It's just something that's timeless. You can still watch it today and still laugh, and it's still relatable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
and I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna go and watch. Was it Read Between the Lines? Because I never really watched that show, and I did watch a few episodes of Malcolm and Eddie, but I'm gonna go back and watch some of his other work. I didn't watch a lot of it at the time, but I am gonna go back and watch.
Yeah, and I think that that's what this offers, is an opportunity to go back and see his body of work. The musician, the poet, the actor, the director. He was, that's what I said before, multifaceted, and that just multifaceted, multi-talented. And to win a Grammy Award for your music, to be nominated for an Emmy, you got to be talented, but you also have to work hard. And I think that's the thing about it, that you have to be willing to put in the work. And I think that to me is where his work, kind of embodied. So is Betty going to come on?
Betty, are you? Well, she's having some technical. Oh, there she is.
Betty.
Hey, Betty.
Hey.
So, Betty, you want to help round us up so we can close out? You want to talk about some things from an international impact?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was afraid I was going to break the stream, so I stayed behind until it was done.
You helping the stream?
Yes. So before the international appeal, I mean, everything that, all these clips, just the nostalgia, going back and watching every single one of those clips you guys chose and everything we're talking about, it's just, it's so sad. It's just really sad. It's really sad that he's gone, and that we lose such an iconic individual. And it's beyond the Cosbys, but the Cosby Show itself. I mean, when you talk about the type of impact that had me personally growing up in Ethiopia, that was the one show that played every Friday. So in the 90s, when Gaddafi, did the whole satellite thing in Africa, started, actually seeing, you don't have to be privileged. Like TV actually would show like stuff from around the world. There wasn't like all sorts of channels. We had one channel in Ethiopia at the time in Addis, and that's just the capital. It's not like everywhere. And every Friday, because TV started at 6 p.m. So every Friday there would be like sitcoms. And that was like a new phenomenon. And they selected like 2 or 3 shows. I don't remember. I think Matlock was one of them at some point in the end. There's also shows from Europe and stuff, but there's like one show from this one show. And the American show was the Cosby Show. So everyone who grew up, around that time, in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, whatever, knows the Cosby Show, knows every character. And when Atiba said earlier, I have to remember to say Malcolm. I was telling Neada when we were prepping for this show, I had people from back home, people like elders, calling saying, I heard Theo's gone. I'm like, oh my God. Nobody would ever call him Malcolm. Nobody knew the name. But Theo, Rudy, Vanessa, these names were like familiar, like in every family, in every household. We all watched, all of these stories growing up, and it had such an impact. And, the biggest thing to me, just watching all of this is, the impression and the vision and the view of African Americans, Black America, that the Cosby Show did, and Theo, Malcolm, played a big role in that. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal because it completely changed the dynamic, and I don't think there's any show that really, hit that standard ever. It's like wholesomeness, but it's family, but it's stories, and it's relatable. And when some years ago, there was an article when we were again prepping for the show, these articles that were from South Africans, talking about the same thing, talking about African American art, culture, music, and all of these things, and how white South Africa and Black South Africa during apartheid were all hooked. And it was the same shows that we were selected for certain capital cities across the continent now. And so in South Africa, I saw the same kind of reviews by people living in way other places that I grew up. And they had the same impression, same things to say. So I don't know, the global impact to me, the cultural impact, it's the humanity of it. It's so relatable. It's the way people look at, Black America outside of crime and, all sorts of things that we're fed across the globe about how to look at, Black America. This was such a phenomenal difference. It made such a phenomenal difference. And, I miss it. And it's ageless, like Atiba, like you said earlier, it's ageless. They still do rerun. They still show them all the time. It's brand new everywhere. I show it to my kids, and I pick the episodes I want them to watch to teach a lesson, all the time. And I have these in the back of my mind. And I'm so glad when Pat just mentioned the dyslexia episode, it was like a second to just like find that. And I was like, oh yes, that. They're also memorable. Nayada, you had the ear pierce thing that you put on the roster that we didn't play. My brother went through that exact same situation where he was trying to hide, and it's like, and he's just back. You remember that scene? And it's like, it's like almost like these are family members. Like we remember these things as if like we lived through them and experienced them. The
stories were so relatable. They were so relatable. I mean, it was, this is what we went through.
Yeah.
But that episode with the earring, it was so funny how their timing. I was like, okay, did they count? What did they do? How did they?
Yep. Oh, it's amazing.
So, this has always been our thing with the show. We always say we're going to take 1 hour, and we end up going over an hour because there's so much to unpack. But I want to give everybody a quick 30 seconds to wrap. And I want to thank everyone who has tuned in tonight, watched the show. I have to say a disclaimer that all the viewpoints of each of everyone do not reflect the viewpoint of party politics. But I do really appreciate the fact that each and every one of you has had something to add to this, and I feel as if we could go hours and hours, and I'm sure that the people who are watching this would say the same thing. And Betty, thank you so much for adding in that international piece, because there's so much of this, like too often, and often I'm very big about this, and I know that it doesn't always go across positively, but I mean it to be positive, that we keep talking about a Black America, and I believe there's only one America. And I believe that what Dr. Cosby tried to do with the Cosby Show, in terms of saying that it was about an upper middle class family that happened to be Black, not an upper class middle or Black upper middle class family. I think that those semantics are so important, particularly with all the things that are going on today. And that's one of the things that I think that why we all, whether or not it was globally, locally, what have you, embraced the show, and because we could see it for its humanity. So with that said, I'm going to go across. Nayada, our producer, thank you so much for all the behind the scenes things that you did, all the behind the scenes things, Betty, that you did. Thank you so much for doing all this. I made a call and you guys answered the call, as you always do, as women always do. So just want to tell you how much we really appreciate all the work you did. And with that, this producer who gave me my sheet of what I was supposed to do. Hopefully I followed it as much as best I was supposed to. But thank you so much for all the work.
You did a good job. You did a good job.
Well, thank you, Mr. Producer. I'm gonna give it to you.
It was a good deal.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what much more can be said. I am glad that I lived in a time in which Malcolm Jamal Warner existed. I am glad that I lived in a time and got to witness what he offered to our generation, to my kids' generation, because they watched him, they know him, and I'm grateful that I was able to witness him.
Betty, I know you just went, but I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Yeah, I really don't know what else to add. I think we said it. We said all everything there needs to be said. But I'm going to go back and rewatch and rediscover and find out what things I missed. The spoken word, the poetry, the other achievements. I heard a clip on one of these shows he was on recently, a couple of years back, and the host asked him, "What are you most proud of?" And I thought it was remarkable that he answered he was mostly proud of all the achievements he had after the Cosby Show, and his consistency and the other things that he built and giving back. And I was like, you know what? We do need to, remember all of those things as well. So, but we have an opportunity because there's a ton of media out there and body of work out there for us to rediscover. So, rest in peace. He was a brother. I'm really happy that you guys were all. I'm glad you did this. You asked us to do all of this, Atiba. It was worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaiser Sose.
I think it's the never-ending art of being allowed to reinvent yourself. I think for over 40 years, we watched him continuously reinvent himself, pursue his passions, master his craft. And I think that's a message for life. That's a message about being a parent, is that in order to be there for your children, you have to continuously reinvent yourself. I understand what they're going through. I think to be a citizen and a participant in this thing called America, you have to embrace and continue to reinvent yourself. And he mastered that by the different types of ways we saw Malcolm Jamal Warner in so many different ways. And we weren't offended when we saw him in a different role and a different light, because we understood the value he was bringing to our lives. So that's my 30 seconds.
Earl?
In elementary school, maybe junior high school, I read the book that he put out called Theo and Me Growing Up Okay. It's a book that he actually, just to show how dedicated he was to making sure it came out for the brothers who needed to see it at the time. There was a thin book for younger brothers, and then there was a thicker hardbound book with like more deep with deeper approaches to the answers that because the book was just basically him answering his fan mail. Guys, people would send him letters to the Cosby Show, and he decided he was going to answer them in this book. I did a book report on it when I was like 11 years old, and that book changed my life. I think I'd like to live in one America. I'm hyper aware of the fact that there are two Americas right now, and I think that unfortunately, for those of us who couldn't see ourselves in some of the examples that television was portraying, it was very important. He's the reason why representation matters to me. The fact that I had a Theo Huxtable is the reason why and it was so well played by Malcolm Jamal Warner, is the reason why I know little boys, little girls, little gay boys, little gay girls, people who need to see themselves acted out or represented, portrayed in positive and adaptable roles, places where they could have a full emotional range, but still take responsibility for their reactions to it. I think Malcolm Jamal Warner played that character with a great deal of heart. And I'm grateful that I was able to witness it. I was grateful that I lived in a time when he was doing it. And, hopefully when we do things like this, we can maybe illuminate what people may have missed, even if they were watching the same show.
And Earl, you just did that. I had no idea about the book that you just said. So thank you.
Oh, Theo and Me. Yeah. It's a great book. It's a great book.
And as I wrap this part, I want to say, Malcolm Jamal Warner, his name was Malcolm. He was named after Malcolm X. It's very, Malcolm X. He was named after Ahmad Jamal, a musician.
Yep.
And then his last name was Warner. And, if you look at the meaning of Warner, I could also say a caller, someone who, tells you or warns you of something. And I just think that he embodied so many things within his art, so many things within his work, his humanity. And so when I speak to, for instance, things about just looking at this, in terms of, I started off this saying he was an American, because it's so important that we recognize that the Cosby Show wasn't a Black show. It was an American show. It was a human show. It was a global show.
Yeah, it was.
And so, when I look at the language and how we do things, I think that having psychologists on that show to work with them on the script who weren't just African American, weren't just Black, that also embodied a lot of other things in terms of perspective. But the way that it was carried out, the timing, the comedic part, and yet the lessons that were there, it's just amazing. It just is just a classic show. And the word, and his middle name Jamal means beauty, handsome, but it also carries the connotations of inner beauty and moral excellence. And I think, Nyada, you hit on that in terms of, you said that maybe it was his publicist. I think it was just who he was. I think that just how he carried himself, and maybe also because, not maybe, his parents, just all the things that but how he took all of those things and just exemplified his work, exemplified his art, and wasn't just good at being an actor. He was directing. Think about it. He was directing the Cosby Show before he was like a full-fledged adult. He was directing Cosby Show episodes. He was making music and poetry. And so, all these things and the sadness and everything that we feel for the loss, we also can, I hope, also embrace the fact that we got to know him in our own different ways. And that he and his family allowed us to share him for 8 years on an iconic show that is still talked about today. But that the work that he did an incredible job of. And I know that it couldn't be easy. And I say this because I've read so much about him in the last few days, that it couldn't be easy to make the transition from child star to adult star, adult actor. But he did it with such class, and he did it in a way that all of us can be proud. So with that all said, I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in this evening. I want to thank my incredible, illustrious co-host, who for this show be not just me talking, and nobody wants to just hear me talk. So I want to thank you all for joining this conversation, this chalkboard conversation. And we look forward to, and hopefully we won't be another 3 years before we come back and do this, but this was fun. This was great. And hopefully we can also find some other topics that, we can come back and talk about this, but, that can be lighter as well as more also fun. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, Nayada, Betty. Thank you again, Earl, Nick, Pat. Thank you all so much for tonight. Nayada, you have the last word. You're the producer.
No, I was just going to say for our, we ended. Okay. I don't know what happened.
I see the ticker go. No, we're still good. We're still left.
Are we? Oh,
yeah, we are still left.
Okay. What I was going to say was for our listeners, viewers, supporters, if there are topics that you want to hear us talk about, if you want to join us, then just send a chat on Facebook or Instagram to Party Politics US or Chalkboard Conversations podcast, and we can make it happen. So,
yeah, sounds good.
So with that, we're going to wrap. Love you all. Thank you very much. This has been another episode of Chalkboard Conversations presented by Party Politics US. Good night.
Would you mind doing a poem?
This piece is Asante Sana. Abadigani, comrade. What, you still on that freedom shit? Word? Well, yeah, you know me in this poetry, we still be on that weedum shit. That birthing inspirational couplets and breedum shit. That I spit, cat should heed 'em shit. That words can't break my bones, but if you cut me, Holmes, I bleed 'em. Shit. Atonement for the masses of hard asses and heads that tread on civil liberties in the most uncivilized of fashion is said to be dead. Can we afford to be dumb for free? See, that's the question I'm asking as I beg for an ounce of truth amongst the aloof surrounding me. My vices are proof that these demons keep hounding me. Reality keeps pounding me, almost astounding me into this strange hypocrisy. You see, I preach the same hope that I'm losing daily, like my religion. Peep how deep I bear my soul. I stand on the precipice of this crossroads. It's like I want to give my life to the cause, but which one? Ignorance is running so ridiculously rampant, I can't tell if I'm hating or merely debating just for fun. But I do know my heart heaves heavy upon hearing the fluttering hum of the feeble footsteps of fear, stamping out the ferocious flames of our dogged desire and determination to outpace the perilous prophecy our captors have programmed to be our faith, and thus our fate. I know my soul writhes with anxiety aches. Lies no longer need disguise when they start looking like the truth. Like, how do we ignore cries of ill-guided youth spitting dope bars of self-hate over beats that bang harder than strange fruit hangs? Meanwhile, her breasts hang and her booty bangs harder than the gun claps of rival gangs fighting over territory they don't even own. And in magic cities everywhere, she feeds her babies based on her ability to shake what her mama gave her because her pops was too busy breaking in his disappearing act to save her from these mean streets that eat the meek in one swallow. Lies no longer need disguise when the truth is viewed as hollow through the eyes that need it most. We, descendants of stolen legacies, children of ancestors who cannot be broken, birthers and bearers of a culture that has been repeatedly robbed and ransacked to feed the spiritually famine like a black woman's bosom. We who become a pre-existing condition simply because we pre-exist. We who realize we are worthy. We are the guardians. We are the gardeners. We are the soil. We are the toil. We are the protectors of our seeds who need to be protected, who need to see true love and Black excellence redirected, not through fame and fortune, but redirected through character and deed. And indeed, it is those who stand on the front line, fighting for the minds of our young, Black, and gifted. It is you who are an inspiration to me, because you are the revolution we do not see on TV. Asante Sana.
Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, Malcolm Jamal Warner.